Hey guys, I'm Midnight Siren, and today I'm going to be doing something new. And no, it's not a new series, it's just something I want to do to replace one of my narrations for the week. And that is going to be, I'm going to be telling one of my personal paranormal experiences. Now, if you guys have watched my 100 subscriber special, there was an instance in that where I did talk about two of my paranormal experiences, and I will probably do more of these in the future, and I'll probably talk about both of those in separate videos, but today this is going to be another separate paranormal experience. Now, it's important that you guys realize that I am both a believer in the paranormal and a skeptic, which there's a lot of people like that. Some people are just, nope, ghosts don't exist, aliens don't exist, paranormal is bullshit, science, stuff like that. And then other people are like, oh my gosh, this is paranormal, 100% paranormal, it has to be paranormal. But there's gotta be a balance between the two things. Not everything's paranormal, not everything is explainable. And that's sort of what I am. I like to have realistic explanations, but sometimes you can't find those. And with this story, I guess there might be some realistic explanations, but personally, I would like to believe it is paranormal over anything. But let me get to the story. When I was 16 in the winter of 2012, my grandmother died. My mom's mom. And she died in late December, almost at the start of the new year, like a couple of days before the new year. And when she died, it was really a hard time for everyone. The funeral preparations went on way longer than anyone else. You know, with normal funerals, they die, and then in a couple of days, they usually put it to rest. But with my grandmother's funeral, that really wasn't the case. Her preparations went on a lot longer than they should have. And when things like that happen, it's really hard for the healing process because you can't put a band-aid on it until everything is settled down. It probably took a couple of weeks. I don't exactly remember, but it took a couple of weeks to get her buried. Because it's not important why, it took a while, okay? Now, me and my grandmother were incredibly close. When I was a little young child, before I started school, I stayed with my grandparents a lot, and that exposure breeds closeness. And I was exceptionally close with both my grandmother and my grandfather. I stayed with them when I was really young. I stayed with them after school when I was older. I stayed with them a lot. I was around them all the time, which in contrast to my other set of grandparents that I only see a couple of times a year, I had a very great relationship with them both. And I still have a great relationship with my grandfather. He's still around, thank God. But I was very close to her, and I'm very close to him. But when I was, I think, 13 or 12 or 13, she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and I don't know if anyone who hasn't been around someone with Alzheimer's really realizes how awful that disease is, because they absolutely just forget everybody, and they don't really know what's going on. And I was a child, I didn't know how to deal with it. I don't know if I would still know how to deal with it if she was still around, and I'm a young adult now, but it was really difficult seeing her going through that, and it was really hard. And she just wasn't the same person. after that, when she just started forgetting everything, and it was really tough. But I mean, I still loved her, and it was still hard when she died. It was exceptionally hard because my grandfather was just a wreck afterwards. And after she died, my mom and I actually moved in with him. And I think that it was good for him to have us around, it, to keep him company and stuff. But but as I said before, it was pretty it was a pretty long ordeal getting her buried. And when we finally had her funeral, we were sitting in the chapel, and I can't remember who was talking. I'm sure it was the preacher. But we were sitting there, and my mom was upset, and my grandfather was upset. And while they were talking with my deceased grandmother in the casket, the lights flickered. It was a sunny day in early January. Absolutely no reason for the lights to flicker, and the lights flickered. And I think everyone kind of viewed it as maybe it was my grandmother trying to console everyone that was upset, console everybody. But my mom mentioned that perhaps it was some person working for the funeral people that did it in order to mimic that feeling of consolation via spirit, which, if so, it's really not comforting. It kind of detracts from what the lights flickering really meant. There was no reason for the lights to flicker, and it didn't do it again. But a part of me thinks that perhaps it was her spirit doing that. But however, the story doesn't end there. Now, before my mother and I moved in with my grandfather, my mother and I actually lived quite a distance from where I went to school and from where she worked. So we had to get up very early in the morning, and my mother would drop me off at my grandparents' house, and I had been doing this long before my grandmother died. She would drop me off at my grandparents' house, and this was really early in the morning. It'd be like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and I didn't have to be at school till 8. So I would always lay on their couch, and I would go back to sleep. Well, this one particular morning, not long, I want to say it was the first day I was back to school after my grandmother was finally buried. I want to say it was, but I don't know if that's for certain. But either way, it wasn't long after. I was laying on the couch, and I was half asleep. I was starting to drift off. And in my grandparents' living room, they had this roll top desk, and on top of it, they had this little, it's hard to describe, it was like a sort of tank thing that had like a faux garden in with like some fake plants and birds. It was pretty large, but it was, small enough to sit on top of a desk. And there's a crank connected to it that when you wound it up, it played music. It was essentially a large music box. And I'd played with the thing when I was a child, but oh man, that thing probably hadn't been touched in a couple of years at least. Like, no one had wound that thing up in a very, very long time. And as I was laying on the couch, starting to fall asleep, that music box started playing. It didn't completely wind up, but it played a couple of the notes. and my eyes shot open and my heart started beating fast, and I was just slightly panicked for a moment because that music box just played by itself. Now, the skeptical part of me says that perhaps it was just tension in the springs that was letting loose and it caused it to play on its own. There's, I guess, a few internal explanations that could explain why it played. But the timing is just so coincidental. My grandmother had just been buried. It was still fresh. The wound was still pretty fresh. And out of nowhere, this music box plays just for me. This was the same living room as a child that me and my grandmother played, me and my grandfather played, when I had a lot of memories in that living room. And I had memories with that box, and it just plays on its own. And I told my mom about it, and we told my grandfather, and my mom believes that my grandmother was saying goodbye to me. And I think, I believe that too. I mean, whether I am skeptical, which I am, I'm always very skeptical, I can't explain it. I mean, I can. I'm sure I could find some sort of explanation. I don't want to. I want to believe that it was my grandmother's spirit saying goodbye to me, because I have not heard that music box play since. I hadn't heard it play in a very, very long time previous. I don't know why it would have just played on its own. No one had touched it in a long time. Nothing was going on that would have caused it. There's no animals in the house. No one was in the room. It was just me lying on the couch. And it just plays by itself. A few days after my grandmother dies. Now that's the extent of what happened to me. But oddly enough, things kept going on with my other family members. Like, one of my uncles got a phone call from my grandmother's number. My aunt took my grandmother's phone and changed it to be her number. So the number was shut off. My mother had dreams about her. Just things that happened all within a couple of months after she died. I just think it's too coincidental, and I want to think that a part of her spirit stuck around to say goodbye to all of us. Because, you know, I loved my grandmother, and she and I, we were very, very close. And I do miss her. But I know, as someone who is not overtly religious, but that believes in religion, and someone that believes in spirits, I take a lot of comfort in that. And I believe that wherever my grandmother is, I think she's watching over us. Whether she can interact with our environments or not, like, I believe she did back then. But I'm starting to run out of time here, guys. Let me know if you liked this, and let me know if you want to hear me talk more about some different paranormal experiences I've had. Also, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, or if you've had any similar paranormal experiences. Maybe if I can gather enough of real life experiences, I can make a video of other people's. But I'm Midnight Siren, and thank you guys for watching this. I will see you guys next time. I'm about to run out of time.